Welcome to Brand Lover, honest, real, and lively conversations for flourishing entrepreneurs and budding business owners on a mission to cultivate a heartfelt brand that connects with their purpose-driven mission. My hope is that you walk away feeling inspired and refreshed with a weekly takeaway in your back pocket that you can apply to your life or business. Welcome to CJ from Catherine James Creative. CJ is dedicated to helping female entrepreneurs amplify their voices and align their business messages with their values and goals. Love that. CJ's methods are deeply embedded in presence and authenticity, aiming to create genuine human connections amidst the digital noise. And that just, makes my heart sing. Welcome, CJ.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
I'm glad you like the bio.
I love the bio. Obviously,
A lot of thought into it.
you wrote that, so of course I'm loving it. So tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, cool. Well, it's Catherine James Creative is the name. And I started this business in 21. So just a little tiny bit of history that doesn't need much explaining. I was a travel agent for a long time.
Yeah.
And then 2020 happened, and we don't really need to explain
No.
why that didn't work out.
Yeah.
I still do actually do travel, but what I did then was realized what happens when you have one income and it is pulled out from under you. And I thought, no, I really need another business. Actually, I didn't think of it like that. I didn't think I need another business. I thought I need another form of income. What can I do? And I spent a lot of time casting about thinking, looking at all these ridiculous things like drop shipping on Amazon.
Oh, yes.
All of that, working in other industries. And then finally, a dear friend said to me, why don't you do something with your writing? Because I've always been a writer, always loved words ever since I was a child and had a library card.
Yeah.
And I've always had in my heart this idea that to be a writer, I had to write a book, and that was my goal one day. And it was like this really deep held dream, like, oh no, that's not a job, that's my dream,
Yeah.
But then the two came closer together when I realized that there was this craft called copywriting. I stumbled across a course, how to be a copywriter, read about it, and I thought, wow, that's kind of what I do in travel anyway. I've already got those skills. So for people who are listening who have no idea what a copywriter is, copy is just the word for the content or the text that goes in a position. So like on your flyer or on a website or on the back of a book, something like that. And it has something that it needs to do. So a copywriter specifically often sells a product, and it's not that blunt, but it'll be explaining the benefits, the features. It'll be whenever you're reading anything where at the end of it, you're like, oh, I like the sound of that. It's been written by most likely a copywriter with the intention that you would understand the product at the end. And I thought to myself, I've been doing this in travel forever, painting the picture, saying to people, do you want to be beside the pool with a cocktail at the swim up pool bar, or you're hiking a mountain, So I thought I've got those skills, and that's a job that can't be taken away by borders closing.
Yes.
Just unusual.
Who would have ever predicted that?
No, well, that's right. I say to people, when in travel, you expect a certain number of cancellations because life happens. But to have them all at once, your entire database, everyone traveling cancels, it was just, no one had ever planned for that.
No,
and I don't think everyone, even now that it's happened, I don't think anyone would ever plan for it ever again. But
yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah.
So in many ways, I'm grateful because I started this other business with writing, and I discovered that I could help other business owners because I'd also been in business. So the worlds came together, and I thought, that is brilliant. I love that, because I really enjoyed helping people travel, because that's a gift to help people do that. But helping people in business and helping get money in the bank, and their families, and they can be their own business owner and then have more time with their family and their children. I thought, oh my God, yes, I want to do this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah.
And was that the question?
Kind of, but you've answered a few of my other questions as well, which is fabulous.
Okay. I can talk. I can talk
No,
till the cows
no,
come home. It
that's
goes
so
on.
good. And I love that you touched on the point of the bigger picture of your business is not just writing copy. Like it's not just writing. First of all, I loved the definition that you had of copy and copywriting,
Yep.
because it's really writing with an end goal in mind, isn't it? There's a
Yep.
purpose that you
Mm-hmm.
want people to come and take action. And I love that because that's a gift in itself. But also just that bigger vision or the bigger impact that that you can see your business having is on other businesses, like freeing up their time to spend more time with their families and living their life, serving their purpose. And because I can really relate to that because that's how I see my business. Like I just love helping other business owners in the way that I help people, for that same kind of reason, like to
Well,
ease that stress and have
that's
more
that's
greater
the that's
impact.
yeah, that's it. That's the heart of it.
Mm,
And for me, I mean, I've done various jobs where I've written for, oh, let's not pick an industry because I don't want to make anyone feel bad, but like just sort of a basic description of, I was doing recipes at one point,
yeah.
like selling frozen meals, like
Okay.
so fine, but it
Yeah.
didn't light me up,
Yes.
that was not, I could make it a good description. I could find a way to enjoy writing about it. But when I hit on the fact that if I am helping this business attract more clients and that's then allowing them, and particularly because I'm a solo business owner, single parent,
Mm,
my daughter is my focus, to be
mm,
able to help someone else attain that freedom as well, to be at the events or the when their child gets an award, all that stuff, that's really
yes.
important to me.
Yeah.
And for the other people that it is important to as well, if I can help them do that. That's why I was like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's where I'm at.
Yes, and that's such a beautiful thing to have that because if you don't have that deeper motivation, it sometimes can be very hard to face the realities of business sometimes, like we all have those days, but like when you can dig that little bit deeper and have that heart of service for a purpose, I think
Mm,
that makes such a huge difference. So that's really lovely to share. So thank you.
mm,
Um, so you mentioned that you were almost grateful to that COVID period because it showed you that you could have this different kind of impact. Do you
mm.
think you would have explored it eventually somehow if it hadn't happened that way?
Yes, eventually.
Mm,
So a little side note to what I was doing was in 2019, I decided I needed a different career.
okay.
Um, and I went to university and got into law.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
just because, I don't know, I like arguing.
Yeah. Okay.
But I really wanted to know more about how the world worked and the legal system in Australia and things like that. I've always been really
Mm,
interested in that. And I
mm,
thought that would be my new career. But then, so I did the first year, great, business going well, study, everything, managing to juggle it.
amazing.
And then 2020 just knocked the wind out of my sails. So
Yeah.
because I had to spend all that time unpicking holidays and cancelling and everything. So I
Yeah.
failed a few subjects at uni. I had to accept that
Yeah.
and go, well, and they were able to give me what do you call it? Not compensation, but like withdraw, not fail, because of the
Yeah.
situation. So,
Yeah.
so it was a unique time that year,
Yes,
definitely.
it really was. Yeah.
But I stuck with it because I really enjoyed it. And
Okay.
what I found out of it, I've now turned it into a double degree, which sounds ridiculous, but so I'm doing arts law, so arts, a double degree of arts and law, and majoring in gender studies, because what I found was that the legal system is extremely skewed towards men,
Wow.
and against women, even the language and the interpretation.
Mm.
So I know this is taking us in a completely different
Oh,
direction at the
that's
moment,
okay. We'll get back there.
but what I've ended up doing is doing that part-time. So that's a long-term project
Yeah,
to maybe
wow.
maybe someday have an impact on like law reform, things like
Mm,
that will bring it into more of a community focus. So different laws impacting women. I mean, we're Yeah, we're seeing a lot of things in the media at the moment about how women are impacted differently by the legal system.
Mm,
So I think, just to get back to your question, that I would eventually have realized that that was an outlet for writing as well.
yeah.
But I am, and I'm still on that path. That's another
Mm,
path I'm doing at the same time. But
mm,
that's why I am grateful to that COVID period, because I looked in for alternatives and
yeah.
turned writing into an actually something that I could do day to day and make a living from. So,
Yeah.
and that's also going to impact on the skills that I have later if I'm ending up doing something in law reform as well. So
Yeah.
it's all an interesting path to
Yeah,
get somewhere.
I love that. And I love that you're sort of using, like you're using your inherent gifts and talents in a way that is, having a positive impact on the world. And I
Mm,
think that that can happen in so many different layers and different phases of our life. Like I hear people say, I don't know what my purpose is or what's my purpose in life. And I feel like we're given these gifts for different purposes,
yes.
many different layers. And I
I
think
don't
that
think there's just one
no,
purpose, is there?
and I
No.
feel like, whatever it, whether it's the copywriting thing or whatever, like you say, that eventually you would have come round to that. But it's funny how there's always some kind of catalyst that comes our way to push us down a path sometimes, even when we didn't expect it. But then we sort of go,
Mm,
oh, well, this actually clicks, like it actually is good.
yeah.
So I love that. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that's really empowering for anyone who is sort of still hasn't really found their thing.
Mm,
Sometimes it's just a matter of just using what you've got in the moment with where you are and just
yeah.
starting.
Just starting. I think that's such a great way to do it. One day at a time, one foot in front of the other.
Yeah,
Because it's easy to look back in hindsight and see what evolved,
yeah,
but had you told me that this was going to happen, I would have said,
yeah.
no, I won't take that path. Thank you. I don't want to go through all that horrendous difficulty to
Exactly.
get
Oh
to
my
that.
gosh, yes. So many, most things are like that, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. So
Anything worth having. Yeah.
I can remember really distinctly as a child, when you're reading like historical accounts of people and stuff, and and they did this and then they went there and they did that and they did this, and I remember thinking, gosh, it was all so easy for people in the past.
Yeah.
But of course, we're summarizing when we look back, and we're
Yeah.
seeing all the positive outcomes that happened, and not always sharing the difficulties along the way. So
Yeah.
I still feel like I don't know what my purpose is, but I
Yeah.
certainly know what I can do today to help somebody else in business. And that's enough for me at the moment.
Absolutely. I love that. All right, so let's steer the conversation back to copywriting, which
Yes.
I like. I'm grateful that you shared all of that. I loved it. And I think our listeners will too. But just when I came into chatting with you today, there were a few things that I really want to touch on because I talk to a lot of business owners, and one of the biggest struggles that I hear is the constant pressure to write. Like copywriting is part of marketing. Like you can't get around it
Yep.
really. It's like, social media captions that are almost a daily thing, like expectation sometimes, blogs, emails, even like podcast scripts and show notes for podcasts. And
Yep.
really you can't escape it. Like it's
No.
but if there's something that doesn't come naturally to you, that could be quite, I guess, not debilitating, but it can become like a confrontational thing that you have to face every day.
Yeah, and it can stop you from doing those tasks, like we all know with the social
Yep.
media. Oh, I can't think what to say. I'll just do that later. I'll do that
Yeah.
tomorrow. Mm.
Yeah. So I guess my question to you is like, if somebody presented to you and they were feeling like that, what would you recommend to them, or like how would you diagnose them, and what would the remedy be?
I would say, don't worry, everyone feels that way.
Yeah.
It's perfectly normal. And usually, often when I talk to people, they say, I'm not a writer. And I say, that's okay. You didn't go into a business to be a writer. You
Mm,
went into business to deliver your service or product, whatever you're doing.
yeah.
It's like when you start, particularly in business on your own, as you know, you are the accountant, you're the marketing department, you're HR,
Yeah,
you're the tax department, you need to know
absolutely.
a wide range of skills. And so there's two pathways, and one is to outsource, really,
Mhm.
which is, to use somebody like me, who can do it for you. I mean, that's
Yeah,
one choice. If that's not possible, or either for money wise, or just time, who knows, whatever you're
yeah.
wanting to do, it's really about just spending some time. And I think, just before I jump into the AI thing, I will
Mhm.
say there is a lot more possibility to create good content through AI these days. But what you've got to do first is really think about who you're talking to. So, and you would know this from branding, uh,
Mm.
with every, and it might only just be half an hour you've got to spend. If you sit down and go, I don't know what to write, don't
Mm.
think like that. Just say, what am I trying to say? Or what do I want people to hear today?
Mm.
If you've got a product that is beneficial in some way, how can I tell people about those benefits? And how can I make it make sense to them in their life that they're seeing? So there's so many strategies I could say. One would be start with a great hook. So it's just think of something that's eye-catching when people are scrolling through, something that's going to make them, or a question that they might answer in their head. Do you need such and such? Yes, I do. Oh, I
Mm.
might read that.
Mm.
But it's really about thinking about, first and foremost, who you're talking to. So we'd use the term target market,
Yeah.
audience, your avatar, all those words really mean just thinking, okay, who's that person? And if you don't have that language yet, just think about a customer that you've got that you would love to sell something to again, or
Yeah.
work with, and just go, all right, that lady or person, I am going to talk to them in my head, and I'm going to write something that they would relate to, or that they would find interesting or engaging.
Yeah.
There's probably just a few little tips of
Yeah.
how to get going, uh,
Yeah.
is to get out of your own head and think about the people who are going to be interacting with your brand or your product or service.
Yeah, and I love that example that you shared of like even just taking the whole lingo of target audience out and just thinking
Mm,
that one perfect customer that you've had before, that you would love to work with again,
yep.
and using that as sort of like just, yeah, talking to that person, even just like seeing their face and their name and what would you say to them, and what are their needs at the time. And I love that because that's an example that I like to use as well. So
Mm.
yeah, I love that. And also like, so that's like, I guess, just a general kind of copy um, topic. Get the
Yeah,
right
yeah.
word. Isn't that
Just
terrible?
doing some writing.
What I'd really love to sort of even just take it back one step, and talk about message alignment. So message alignment was something that I stumbled across on your website, and I thought,
Mm,
oh, that is such a good topic, because a lot of people also come to me and they go, I think my messaging's out of alignment, or like it's a huge, like it's a kind of a phrase that gets thrown around a lot in online marketing. It's like, is your message in alignment? It's like, well, I don't know.
in alignment with what?
Exactly, like in a line, like what do you mean, and what's the, like what is the message, like, so like it's, yeah, break now with, on this sort of topic of breaking down jargon,
Mm.
what does that mean, and why is message alignment so important?
Yeah, well, and this is interesting. The reason I chose that language as well is because the topic says so much more, the word says so much more than copywriting. So if I was to say to you, I'm a copywriter, sometimes people don't know what that is, but
Mm,
message alignment, it's the two words that we can immediately understand. If your message is aligned or out of alignment, you can sort of
mm,
get a grasp on what that means.
mm.
What it looks like in your business is going to be attracting the wrong sort of people.
Yeah.
And by wrong, I just mean people who might ask a heap of questions and then not buy.
Mm,
Um, or they might buy and then want a refund. It's not right. It's not what they thought. Product or service wise, it's a bit different depending what you're selling.
yeah.
But problems like that, where there are confusion about what you're offering or what you're selling, and people are either buying it and then backing out, or they're not buying. They're coming to the website. So you might see that your website statistics is reporting that people are coming,
Yeah.
but then there's no conversions. So that's some sort of ideas. When I look at people, so I offer a content audit as well. When I go and look at what people are saying out on their website, and I look at the language they're using, and I think about whether or not that works for who their target market is. So one, do they know? Can they say who their target market is? If you don't know who you're talking to, your messaging is quite possibly going to be out of alignment.
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking about that person when you're messaging, and also inconsistent messaging. So sometimes you'll see on a Facebook page, some really nice examples of some things, and then something random pops up, and like a share or something completely out of whack with what that brand is offering. And you think, oh, did their kid get on the Facebook page or something and accidentally post it? It may not seem like a big deal, but things like that can really impact people's feeling about you as a business and whether or not they want to do business with you. So we're all looking for sort of consistency, reliability. We want to be able to trust the brands that we're interacting with, especially on that first go.
Yeah.
And have you ever had the experience of buying from a company and then going back to buy again and things look different? Like, the website's not the same, the product that you had has changed, but there's no sort of acknowledgement that is no longer there. And you think, oh, it's just a bit jarring. So these things are really tangible experiences that the customer has when they're interacting with you. So another way you can find out is doing customer surveys. If you've got customers, you can, get feedback from them. If you're getting negative feedback, if you're getting complaints, if you're getting people saying this wasn't what I thought it would be, that sort of thing. Those are all some areas in which you might find that okay, maybe I'm not in alignment, because those things can be impacted by other areas as well. But I think that's probably some key indicators. Was that the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And what steps would you recommend to get out of the funk of a message misalignment?
So you've got to identify what it is first. So take a good look at, and sometimes it can be valuable just to get somebody else. Like it doesn't, probably somebody else in business, a friend that you've got who can look at your content with a bit of insight and a bit of an outside eye as well. Because sometimes, I mean, have you ever tried to edit your own content and edit your own writing? And, things slip by, even spelling errors slip by us when we're doing it ourselves. The fresh pair of eyes can make such a massive difference.
Yeah.
So I would initially recommend that you get somebody else to look over and make it somebody that you trust, that they know what they're talking about. Maybe not just your mum or your dad who's going to go, oh, that's great.
That's lovely.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Somebody whose opinion you value and who is going to be able to say things in a supportive way, like maybe that doesn't work, that sort of thing. That's one way. And then taking stock. So stopping and thinking about exactly what it is that you want to get out or want to attract and whether or not that's actually occurring. So it's really just about recognizing it. That's the very first key step, I would say, to realize that there is something going on that you can control and make a difference to. And then the next step, this is something that people don't do enough of, which is testing. So specifically targeting and testing something. Quite often people will put something up and then, oh, didn't work. No one interacted. No, it didn't work. But it may not be, you can also look behind the scenes at your social media. Your post may have no likes, but it may have a lot of impressions. So again, if that's something that you don't understand or know about, that might be something that you can outsource to somebody who knows how to look at that sort of technology. But trying different things, going, okay, today I'm talking to Barbara, and you've identified who Barbara is. And tomorrow I'm talking to Don,
Yeah.
and then seeing what how those posts work and what feedback you get.
Yeah.
Then going, okay, well, that one, I liked the response I got. I'm going to try more of that topic and more
Yeah.
of that style.
Yeah. Yeah, I love
Mm.
that. Just being open to what might work, not being stuck on just trying the same thing over and over again with the same result, being
Mm.
stubborn about it.
Madness, they
It's
say.
like
That's the
it's
definition.
a struggle because on one hand, a lot of people say, well, consistency is the key, and it is, but it has to be the right thing that you're
Yeah,
presenting
you don't want to be
consistently, isn't
consistently
it? It's
getting it
like, oh,
wrong,
you
do
don't
you?
want to you don't want to be consistently showing up with the wrong messaging.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, at what point? Like, at what point is it that you I don't know, that you do sort of not give up, but change tact a little bit? I don't know.
Well, I think, yeah, at the point where you've recognized, they use this terminology, problem aware. You've got to be problem aware. You've got to
Mm.
have realized that, hey, I'm not getting as many sales as I used to, or
Mm.
this isn't actually launching as well as I thought.
Yeah.
Then I use somebody who helps me with my social media, but I do it, but we talk about the strategy. So we sit and
Mm.
have a coffee, and she says, how about this trend, or do this, or why don't you do this? And then I actually go ahead and do it. But just
Mm.
having that input from somebody else whose primary focus is on how the social media works has
Yeah.
made a massive difference, because before that I was like, right, and I'm a writer, I'd be like,
Yeah.
what am I going to write about today? And
Yeah.
so I think, because I think your audience and people that you deal with are mostly solopreneurs,
Yes.
is to get other people involved
Yeah.
in some
Yeah.
way. And so you're not just in your own little echo chamber of,
Yeah, I love
it sounds
that.
great.
Having that sort of strategic input into your business, whether it's a networking group or a community that you're in, or
Yeah.
having those different eyeballs that are willing to be honest and have that kind of, constructive criticism, I suppose. But do you
Yeah.
know what the other thing I think is that you have to be open to it,
Yes,
don't you?
absolutely. Yeah. And that it's not about recognizing that, saying I didn't do it right. It's about going, what can I do better?
Yeah.
There are, there are so many people out there who know more things about all sorts of other things in the world than I do. And so when I want to know something from somebody, I go to somebody who is an expert in that area.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that makes us all better in a way.
Yeah.
We're not just all trying to do this all on our own.
Yeah.
So I think even if you're not part of a networking group, or we've met through a networking group, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
But even just if you can go to a simple ways to go to a co-working space and
Mm.
maybe meet a few people, suggest the idea, can we have a coffee or something, or would you like to collaborate? And then
Mm.
just, even if it's just 2 or 3 people, it can really just give you so much more magic, I suppose, in your business,
Yeah.
trying to do it all yourself.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, you physically can't do everything. Like, you're not an expert in everything. And there's
No.
so many different facets of a business that have to happen to make a successful business.
Mm,
So I think that's lovely to release that expectation of yourself and just be open to what other thoughts. And you don't have to take everything on if it doesn't feel aligned for you. But
yep.
even just to have that to sort of think outside that box a little bit, I think is such a great piece of advice.
Mm,
But I guess it's like message alignment. It's
mm.
you mentioned about experimenting and testing and all that sort of stuff. What about for the business owner who's only just beginning? Like, and it's that overwhelming, just, oh, where do I start? When do you like how does that work, when they don't have anything to begin?
Yeah. Well, that is daunting, isn't it?
I've stumped you now.
No, I know what I want to say, but
Great.
there's just so many not different approaches, but so
Yeah.
many. I don't want people to feel overwhelmed by what I'm about to say, I guess.
Okay. Disclaimer. All right.
Yeah. So I guess in that case, what the main thing I would work out is what makes your business different
Mm.
than the others. Now, sometimes people will go, but I'm selling stationery and there's a bunch of other businesses selling stationery. Well, true, that is true, but your business has you. And what what is it about you and the people that you want to serve that is different from the other businesses? And I think focusing in on that and finding out what it is for you that is your, they call it the, the USP, the unique selling point. Again, another bit of jargon that just kind of doesn't really give you any advice. I always think that people love to buy from people, particularly in their community. And I think that's more than ever now with we're so connected, and yet we still return to our local communities to do business, and if we can, or within, our communities are expanding. They're sort of not necessarily your geographical community. It might be an online community, or it might be a community of like-minded people.
Yes.
Finding out what that is and what makes you different, what makes your stationery business different. And it might be the products you're offering, or the reason why you're doing it, and the story behind why you started your business. Because I don't know about you, but I always read the about pages on people's websites. I just always want to know, who are they? Where are they from? What's behind their story? And when they don't give you enough, or it's just a very corporate sort of, we've won awards for this, I go, okay, not connected. I might find someone else who I, really am connected with. So I guess that would be my starting point, is to work out what that is for yourself and your business. And don't be afraid to shout it from the rooftops. It could just be as simple as wanting to support your family. We use the term side hustle, but often I think the women's side hustles are really quite important in economies these days. They're working, and I don't want to stereotype too much because the men do it as well, but often it's the women who's either they've been paid lower, so the man retains their job because it's higher paid, and then the women do the more of the family work, but also bring in money doing something else. So that is amazing. I love stories like that. I want to support women like that because I'm supporting the family and the children as well. So I would just say don't be afraid to tell your story. Is the starting point. And then once you know that, I think the building blocks are just learning those building blocks. So even if you could just go and pick up a book on marketing, so there's something at the library you could go to. I don't know that I would necessarily go online because there's so much information, but I mean, I'm a book reader myself. So when I wanted to know a bit more about marketing, I went and bought a book at Dymocks. Well, and that led me on to the marketing mentoring group that I am now a part of, that had created the connections that I do the podcast, from simply one book that I went and bought that cost $30. So I think you can learn a few of the key basics, but if you know right at the start your unique selling point, what's different about you, and you talk about that a lot, then that will steer you on the right path for attracting the sort of people that you'll be in alignment with.
So getting those big blocks right, just those couple of key things like the target audience and that, that essence of you and the differentiation of your business. I think that's some really good advice to get started. But you're right, there's so many good books out there. I'm a big book fan myself. And I think like it's an affordable way of self-education. And I love that advice.
What I love about a book as well is that it takes that little bit extra effort to get it into a print than it does online. And you can go and pick it up and know. It's almost like The Matrix. Do you remember the movie?
Yes, I do.
I love that movie, where he like programs in and then he says, "I know Kung Fu," It's almost like that. You go, I want to know about social media, and this book is written, or I want to know about the basic 10 steps of marketing. And this book is called How to Master Marketing for Small Business. I just find that for me, when you've got that book in your hands and you go, okay, well, I've got a bit of a blueprint now here I can follow. It's going to lead me in other directions, but at least this is my starting point.
It's the stepping stones. And creating that the greater awareness as well. Just, once you know some things, it can be easier to sort of to start applying in those areas. I mean, if you don't have the awareness and the knowledge, you don't even know, you don't know where to start or what. what are they
It's
are.
like learning a new
Yeah.
language, isn't it, marketing?
Yeah.
All
Oh,
of
marketing.
the
Yeah.
terminology and the
Oh,
jargon and everything.
especially in
Um,
this day and age.
mm.
Like when I first started my first business, and I'm showing my age here, like the first thing I did was ring the yellow pages for my free listing.
Yay.
I didn't even have a
Got to get in
website
the
or
yellow
anything.
pages. Yep.
And for a long time, I still had people calling from that. But anyway, yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, good times.
But that just shows evolving, doesn't it?
Oh
Like
my gosh. And now it's just so complicated for small business owners. I just wish that it could be so simple as it was back then. But at the same time, with all of this online stuff now, like you can reach so many more people. Like now I have clients all over the world, and that's
yes. Yeah.
incredible. And you meet these amazing people that you never would have met before. But anyway, now I'm going down a rabbit hole. Do you?
Well, we are spoiled for choice, and I think
We
that is where
are.
the difficulty comes from, is that you have to then think, okay, where do I start? Because if you go online, you can find everything out, and you're like, oh, I need to have
Yeah.
like a strategy, and I need to get an emailing system, and
Yeah.
you can really get overwhelmed. But
It's so true. Yeah, so true.
I've
Just
been there.
yeah, I know. We all, yeah, I think speaking from experience. All right. So speaking of that experience, do you have any last words of wisdom around this, copywriting for small business owners?
Wisdom.
I think you've shared a lot. You shared an awful lot
Oh,
already.
good.
So
I hope it's been helpful. I think one of my I'll just say a little bit of advice with AI. Don't just copy it and paste it from from what the AI produces, okay?
yeah.
It's really recognizable. So make sure you read it, get rid of the Americanized spellings, the
Mm,
Z's instead of the S's, and just see if it resonates with you first.
mm,
Always, I mean, you can use AI to give you ideas. If, say, you're like, I need some blog post prompts, it will give you something. It's a place to start, but do
yeah.
please change it. That's just like a tiny bit of,
Good
advice.
advice.
But I would just say, don't let this stuff hold you back. Message alignment, I think, is really important as a key part of your business. You can learn it as you go, though. So trial and error. I mean,
Mm,
you don't. I think I've read this somewhere recently. We don't expect children to stand up and just start walking straight away, do we?
mm,
So if you're a new business owner and you have a great idea and you've got passion, keep remembering that you need to learn and you've got a bit of a steep uphill, and just give yourself space to do that, and don't
mm,
think, oh, because I don't have all of this set up,
mm.
um, that it will be a failure. Just focus back on what makes you different and the people you want to talk to. And I think that is probably the best bit of advice. Keep going, because small businesses
Yeah.
are amazing.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And can I just add something a little that just reminded me when I first started this particular business, a quote that really helped me through that phase of like the messy kind of getting started, trialing, being so uncomfortable is
Mm,
don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 15. And that
yeah.
just helped me. Like every day it was like a mantra, and it's like keep going, keep going, keep going. And then all of a sudden you'll be the expert who's being interviewed on the podcast about copywriting.
Yes. Thank you. Is that me?
So thank you so much for coming and chatting with me, CJ. It's been an absolute pleasure.
That's
Where can our
lovely.
listeners find you and all of your goodies?
Well, so yes, so my website is just my name, catherinejames.au, CATHERINE.
Catherine with a C.
Um,
Thank you.
yes, yeah.
Yep.
And I'm on all the usual places, LinkedIn, Instagram, that sort of thing. I also do have a podcast, which you've been a guest on as well, the Full of Words podcast, which is on the website, where we talk about words and language in all sorts of different formats all over the place. It's not just business, it's all sorts of stuff. And yeah, that's probably, the website is the best place to start. You can find out a bit more about me and what messaging alignment is. And there's a few options to take a questionnaire on there to see where your messaging is at.
Mm,
And even just those questions hopefully will help people get an idea of whether or not they are in alignment.
yeah.
And always happy to have a chat with people and work out if we can work together, if I can help them out.
Yes, thank you so much, CJ. So go over to our website, check it out, take the quiz if you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed with copy, or you've been wondering if about messaging alignment, because I know that I do talk to a lot of you that do worry about that type of thing. So go and head over to our website and yeah, check her out. Thanks so much, CJ.
My pleasure. It's been lovely. Thanks for talking to me.
If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, I invite you to share the link with another woman in business or someone who needs to hear this message. Every woman we can support to grow a meaningful, profitable brand is another woman who is free to live a purposeful life for herself and be more present for her family. None of us are alone in the challenges we face in business, but the solution can start with a gift from someone else, and it could be a podcast episode just like this one. Thank you for listening.